Welcome in the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. In this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We are giving you guys the recap of Divisional Round weekend and looking ahead to the championship games. We got a lot of fun stuff planned on Wednesday and Friday, and you can't teach that. Bada boom. Man, the people in the room. Welcome to the recap show. G Money Grant Mitchell, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Tanner. I've got to admit, think I was at risk of losing the G Money name because the money was hurting on Saturday, but I was back on it on Sunday. And I'm got to say, Tanner, I got to toot my own horn. I mean, I had the Mahomes under on the passing attempts. I had the Chiefs money line. I had the Allen rushing yards. I had the Kelsey touchdown. I kind of called that game to a T.
You did call that game to a T. I did not call the final result to a T. I got the Allen rushing yards right. Looking at Saturday, the first game was very rough for me. It looked good for the Texans. Obviously, they fell apart. The second game, Packers was good because I had CMC over rushing. Yep. I had the spread for the Packers, so that hit. And then the Buccaneers just did not look good. Kate Otten did hit. I'll give him that. That was good. The prop hit. The spread didn't. And then the final result, the Bills, obviously, we just talked about that.
Can I Tanner, look. We were both on Bucks, right? Buck spread?
Yeah.
It didn't hit. I'm not convinced it wasn't the right pick. Because when you look at what happened, they lost by 8 points. So they were right there. They had the failed 2-point conversion. They dropped the easiest interception you'll ever see in your life in the end zone. If they catch that, that would have taken away 3 points from the Lions because they don't get that field goal. And then they missed a field goal inside of 50 yards. So that was another 3 points they probably should have had. Like, congrats to Detroit. Detroit deserved to win. Not saying they didn't. But as far as who deserved to cover, I feel like Bucks spread was still the right pick. It just didn't work out.
I don't like kickers. Kickers, like, you have one, and even the punter in the Bills game yesterday, like, bro, you have one job: punt the ball. One job.
When did that bad punt happen?
It was third quarter. The Chiefs did not score on that drive, though. I don't think, because that was when they had the PI and then they stopped them again.
That was when they had the back-to-back stands. Yeah.
So they didn't score on that drive, but, like, especially you're a punter, you have one job. Like, you're on the 20-yard line going out. Your job is to punt this ball as far as you possibly can. Don't have it come off the side of your foot, buddy. Just punt it.
It's funny too, because kickers get a lot of flack in the NFL, and when you look at an NFL team, you don't look at a kicker. It doesn't look like they necessarily belong to. But I also do feel slightly bad in that the other players out there, if you're on defense, you get a 10, 15 play drive, and then same thing with offense. For the kickers, it's like you might go out and kick the ball once or twice the whole game, and you've just got to be ready at a moment's notice. You never really have any rhythm, so their job is pretty difficult. Like, I'm not going to say that it isn't.
I mean, the dude who missed the kick last night for the Bills, again, it didn't come down to that play. He totally shanked it. He failed under pressure. It was a terrible kick. But the punt early in the game there, I don't feel bad for that guy. Your job, punt it as far. You don't have. It's not precision punting. You're not trying to pin a corner in Madden, like, in the mini camp mode. Your job is to punt this ball as far as you can, and you punt it like 25 yards, buddy. Terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Special teams just in general were not good for Buffalo. Special teams made a huge difference this weekend. The Packers, obviously, they had a real chance there. I know the kicker's getting a lot of flack. The snap and the hold weren't great. And then the Bucs game, like we just talked about, they probably would have covered if they make that kick, but doesn't end up happening.
Nope, it doesn't. So we're going to recap every single game, spend a few minutes on each game, might look ahead to the conference championships. On Wednesday, we're going to talk about one conference championship game. On Friday, we'll talk about another one. We'll do spreads, totals, player props for each game in those shows. But before we get into today's recap show, because you got to hear our thoughts, because I'm a ball of thoughts today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like, share, subscribe, do it all. Check out all the links in the comment section, guys. We want to hear from you, so let us know what you're thinking about these games. And Grant, should we start? Should we go order of what people care about, or should we go through the weekend?
I think we go reverse order. Let's start with the big one.
Yeah. All right. So the Bills versus Chiefs. Me and Grant were just talking about this game. Patrick Mahomes played very well. Josh Allen played good enough to win. I'll say that. I think this game came down to the defense and the special teams for the Buffalo Bills. They were dominated. We can talk about, and the coaching too, the fake punt, like letting DeMar Hamlin. What are we trying to do? Give him comeback player of the year? We trying to solidify it?
That was very. It seemed weird. Like the play call's weird to begin with, but the fact it went to DeMar Hamlin, just I don't know. Was he the best option? Is
no.
Is a fake punt inside your own 30 with a little sweep to the guy who died last year, is that the best play in your playbook? I have a tough time believing it is.
If it's 4th and 5 or whatever, is the best play in your playbook is giving the ball to Josh Allen. Don't try to fake it. So here's what I think happened on that play specifically. I believe, because from the announcers, I don't know, I didn't see it happening, but from the announcers, the Chiefs had 10 people on the field. So allegedly there was some fake punt called from Damar Hamlin or whoever makes that call to say, we're going to run a fake punt here because we have numbers. You don't run a fake. I don't care if you have numbers in that situation. It's kind of like running an RPO on the 1 yard line. You don't throw the ball. You run the ball. You're on the 1 yard. It doesn't matter what the read is. Just give the ball.
Is that a thing though? Do you have checks in a punt formation?
There would be, yeah. So there should probably be a fake check in a punt formation, but the guy who's calling the snap should be smart enough to not check to it in that situation. You can't give Mahomes the ball on the 30-yard line because now you're down. It's not like it's a tie game at that point. It's a 3-point game. If they get a touchdown, it's 2 scores with 10, 11 minutes left in the game. You're probably done.
Or, it's not like there's 3 minutes left and you're down 7. Like, you don't need that. And the defense ended up not that drive. It was the drive before, I think, where they got the back-to-back stops, right? So your defense was playing decently well. That was the best the Chiefs offense has looked all year. And still the Bills were able to get some stops. But yeah, I don't understand why you don't put that in Josh Allen's hand. The Bills in that game were 2 for 3 on 4th down, the missed one being that fake punt. So really they were 2 for 2, and they were 7 for 14 on 3rd down. Like, just if you're going to go for it, just give it to Josh Allen. I don't think running a sweep with Damar Hamlin is a higher chance of converting than giving it to the guy who was balling in that game.
That was reckless. It was absolutely reckless. That was stupidity. So right there, that moment, I was like, this game's over. So whatever, they have the touchback. They get bailed out by the touchback. Probably shouldn't have happened. Like, the Bills defense was dominated the entire game. Like you were talking about, Patrick Mahomes played very well. They ran the ball well in the trenches. They made a few big stops, whoop-de-freaking do. But overall, the Chiefs just dominated them in the short time that they had the football.
Yeah, that was the big thing for me, was how impressive. More than my biggest takeaway from that game is I was thoroughly impressed by the Chiefs offense. And this is what I was saying all year long. Like, I understand they haven't looked the same. When you get to the postseason, this team is too experienced. They've been there in big moments, and you've got the best player in the world. You're going to figure it out. The Chiefs had the ball for less than 23 minutes in that game, yet they were able to basically match the Bills in total yards. They had 7.7 yards per play. Mahomes, I think, was up close to like 9 yards per pass or something like that. It was just a dominating offensive performance. They were putting 6-7 play drives together, 30-yard, 40-yard bombs to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Pacheco was running the ball well. Travis Kelce came alive. That's a scary game for the rest of the NFL. That's what that is, because I doubt that a team is going to score more points than what Buffalo just did. Buffalo played about as well as you can. They kept Mahomes on the sideline. They were able to run the ball relentlessly. They had a lot of yards after the catch. Allen wasn't really throwing it much downfield, but the receivers were running with the ball, and yet you got 24 points and lost. Like, the Ravens look amazing. I don't think they're going to score more than that. And then if they play the 49ers and the Lions in the Super Bowl, I don't think they'll score more than that. And so it's going to be up to whatever defense the Chiefs play to slow them down.
Yeah, I think this game did not come down to Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, which I was happy with. Like, I was happy with how Josh Allen played. He played well enough to win, exceptional with his legs, but the defense, too many injuries, too many busted coverages. Like, a lot of the times too, like, Patrick Mahomes made some really good throws down the field. There were guys running wide open. MVS was running wide open. The Travis Kelce's first touchdown, busted coverage. Like, just so many defensive issues for the Buffalo Bills in the football game, which ultimately cost them. Because you would think, if you look at the time of possession difference, the play amount difference, you would think the Bills dominated the game. Like, if you didn't look at any stats outside of that. But that wasn't the case.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, it just goes back to how sharp the Chiefs offense looked. They just looked in a perfect rhythm, perfect routine, even though they were sitting on the sideline for a long time in freezing cold weather. Like, that's the scariest part about all of this. And talking about Josh Allen, I watched that game and I thought, you know what, Josh Allen was pretty spectacular. But then I went back, I watched the game. I didn't watch the full coaches tape or anything. I was just watching some key moments, looking at the numbers. He was only 10 of 21 on passes beyond the line of scrimmage. Now, again, I'm not saying he played bad. I thought he was very good. I thought he was incredible running the football. but I think that a couple of those deep passes, and granted, the one to Diggs down the field, that wasn't Josh Allen's fault. Stephon Diggs, you have to catch that. You have to make the play of the game. But I feel like the only possible way Buffalo maybe had a chance there is if they did open up the passing game a little more. But at the same time, if you take that risk, then I don't know if you dominate the time of possession like you did. So I think it was just a situation where the Chiefs were meant to win that game. And one of the big reasons I did have the Chiefs coming into this was they had a 2-day rest advantage. That didn't even matter because, again, Buffalo dominated time of possession. They were a very physical team in this game. Kansas City was just better.
James Cook sucks also, too. James Cook's really bad. Every time I watch James Cook play, he fumbles or he drops passes. Every time. Didn't make a difference in the game. Didn't hurt them, but he's not good.
Did you see the debacle with his rushing total?
No, what happened?
His line was 61.5 yards. Going into the fourth quarter, he had 67. He got 4 carries in the fourth quarter. They went from -4, -3, 0, and 1, and he finished with 61.
That's tough. That's really tough.
That's a tough beat.
That's a tough beat. That's pretty tough. But like James Cook too, I know he dropped the slant and they ended up scoring. He dropped that slant a couple weeks ago or a week ago. He dropped the over the shoulder pass in the corner of the end zone. He fumbles he is a fumbling liability. Every time he touches the ball, I'm like, this man is going to fumble. And at least Josh Allen, yeah, he fumbles too, but there's a higher upside on his play. Like he might actually move the football a little bit.
Hey, speaking of fumbles, though, McCole Hardman had maybe the worst stat line in league history.
Yeah,
like two targets, 2 catches, 2 carries, 1 yard, 2 fumbles, 1 target, no catches. Like it was just awful. So it was like one of those Kadarius Toney in disguise moments.
Definitely. All right. So we good on this game?
Do you just want to talk about real quick what the Bills do from here? I told you before we started recording, if the Bills had that fake punt go wrong like it did and the Chiefs scored on the next possession, I think McDermott's out of a job this week. Now, the fact that the Chiefs fumbled it through the end zone and Buffalo ended up getting the touchback, which the competition committee is probably going to change this offseason, but the fact that wasn't the play that put the nail in the coffin, I think maybe he can survive. You were making the case that, though, where do you go if you turn away from McDermott? Because from one perspective, you say, okay, we've had this coach, he's built this system, he's cultivated this talent and all this stuff, but we're kind of maxed out. We're now 0-3 against the same team in the playoffs. We also can't beat the Bengals in the playoffs. We're 0-1 or 0-2 against them. So we're kind of like, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do we need a new coach? Or at the same time, if we do that, do we lose this structure we've built? And now all of a sudden we've replaced him with somebody who can't even get us to the wins that McDermott did.
I don't think you fire him. I don't think you can fire him. I mean, he's 73-41. He took over the team in 2017. So Josh Allen's only had him as a head coach. 9-7, 6-10. Then he's had double-digit wins for the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. His back was against the wall this year. They found a way to sneak into the playoffs, win the AFC East. Josh Allen plays well under him, right? Like he seems like he's developing more and more. I know they had the whole scandal come out about McDermott and, everything. Like there was a hit piece on him. Basically, it looked like that wasn't going to be good, but he's a good coach. I mean, what do you do after this? Okay, you get Mike Vrabel, like we were talking about. Mike Vrabel hasn't won that much.
Yeah, I think Vrabel would be. I just don't know if Buffalo would be willing to take the chance with a young guy like a Ben Johnson, a Bobby Slowick, one of these younger guys, a Mike McDonald. Maybe McDonald makes the most sense because he's a defensive guy like McDermott is, and he created the Ravens defense. But I don't know. I feel like they would go to a more established guy like Mike Vrabel. That would be the one I would target if you were to make that move. But if you do make that move and you fire McDermott, you've got to be sure that you're getting Vrabel or whoever their guy is, because these coaching prospects out there have a lot of job opportunities. And at this point, you're kind of behind the 8 ball because teams like the Chargers, the Commanders, the Falcons, the Bears, or not the Bears, sorry, but they're out there talking to people. And if you're joining that candidacy race sort of late, then maybe you don't end up getting the coach you're after.
I think if you're a Bills fan, if you're a Bills supporter in any way, or you're the front office, I think you're really excited about next season because I think Josh Allen took a huge step forward in these past few games. I think your defense had tons of injuries. Like they were battered on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that the end of the season stretch was a positive for them. So I think, the Miami Dolphins are going to be good, but I don't know if they're a threat. They found a way to collapse. The New York Jets they'll probably be better next year with Aaron Rodgers, but they're the Jets, and the Patriots aren't good. So I think you're excited if you're the Bills moving forward. I think this one hurts though.
Yeah, I understand that perspective. At the same time, the Bills have the fourth highest, or they're in the fourth worst salary cap spot. Something's going on with Stephon Diggs. You probably got to cut ties with him in the offseason.
He's terrible too. He did not make any plays down the stretch of football games when they needed him to. So get rid of him.
Yeah, but the problem is, first of all, moving him. What team's going to take on that contract? Also, the Von Miller contract right now is in contention for the worst contract in sports. I didn't understand why they gave him a 6-year deal when it looked like he had one good year max left, and now he can't even get 3 tackles in a game. They've got a lot of stuff that they have to figure out, and I don't think they've really surrounded Josh Allen with talent. Stephon Diggs was great for a long time, but he's not producing now, and he's probably going to be gone this offseason. Do you go into next year with Gabe Davis and Shakir as your 1-2 receiving punch? Because you can't afford to pay any new receivers to come in. Probably going to have to look to get some guy in the draft, and at that point, you're kind of hoping you hit on somebody.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting, but I don't think it's the end of the world for the Buffalo Bill. Like, Sean McDermott's he's been a winning coach. I'm not saying he's the best coach, but he's won football games. And there's not a lot of coaches who are 73 and 41, whatever he is, in the past since 2017. So, yeah, a tough loss for the Bills. Good win for the Chiefs. We'll talk about more on that game probably Wednesday.
Yep. Now let's talk about the other Sunday game. They got the Buccaneers and the Lions. I thought that the Lions deserved to win this game. I think that when they had the ball, they looked like they were more assertive. They were more in control. What I thought was very interesting, though, was coming into this game, the reason I really liked the Bucs on the spread in this one was I thought that the Bucs were going to be able to get a lot of pressure on Jared Goff. And when you can pressure him, he becomes one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. For the first 2 or 3 drives, they were able to do that. But after that, the Lions made their adjustments. Credit to Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell and that coaching staff. And also the Lions' offensive line is just very good. I believe they were second in Pro Football Focus's rankings behind only Philly. And they did a very good job picking up a majority of the pressure that came their way. On the flip side, the Bucs blitz pickup and recognition was just all over the place. The line was sliding in the wrong directions. They were blocking 5 when they had 6 rushers coming at him. Baker was trying to slide out of pressure, and a lot of times he slid into it. Now, Baker was good in this game, I thought. Don't get me wrong. The end of game interception, it is what it is. And the tipped ball, you can't really blame him for that. But I think it was actually the pressure coming from the Lions that made the biggest difference in this game.
The Bucs did the best they could, and they got the most out of this team possible. That's my take. I did not expect, once the game started going on, I think the Bucs hung on better than I expected them to, because it looked like they were just totally outmatched. But they did a good job. Credit Baker, stayed locked in, stayed dialed in, and they had plenty of opportunities too. Like, there were moments going in that third quarter after the Bucs scored in the second quarter. It's a different game if you potentially go down and get the lead there. Playing from behind versus playing with the lead is so much different. I thought Baker was good enough in this football game. Obviously didn't come through, but it came down to the defense not being able to get stops and the defense not being able to get off the field and the big plays that they gave up. I don't put this game on the offense as much as I do on the defense, because that's what the core of the Buccaneers is, playing really good defense, and they couldn't do it, especially in the red zone too.
Yeah, 100%. The going into this game, we talked about the Bucs had the 3rd best red zone touchdown percentage as far as the lowest percentage allowed to opponents, and they just couldn't do a good job converting there. Their run defense wasn't bad. I mean, 114 yards on 26 carries you allowed. You can live with that, but what you can't live with is Jared Goff completing 75% of his passes, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That was the biggest game. The Lions got to their play action, as they so often do, but the middle of the field, whether it was the underneath or the crossing routes, it was just so open. It was open all game. Goff did a great job dissecting that. I thought, like I said, I thought Baker played well. I think he played well enough to win this game if the defense plays, steps up and plays better. And at the end of the game, they have a chance to go down and potentially tie it, send it to overtime. But again, it was the Bucs offensive line giving out. The Lions getting some pressure, and he throws the interception. So credit to the Lions. Dan Campbell, I love listening to Dan Campbell talk. He embodies what I think it means to be a great coach. He's a real leader of men. And, as 7-point dogs on the road against the Niners, we'll talk about it on Friday. I don't know how they'll do, but I'm happy for them. I'm happy that they got to this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably outmatched because of how they play defense. That's what they can score, but defensively, it's going to be a very tough game for them. And I think in the future, when they learn how to defend the pass, they're going to be really good. They've done excellent this year. Jared Goff's been fantastic, but from the Bucs perspective in this one, like, and just the entire season, like, Todd Bowles got as much out of this team as he possibly could.
Weren't they like 4-7 at one point or something?
Yeah, they had a huge turnaround too. I think you could put Todd Bowles up for in the Coach of the Year list. I don't know if he would win it, but I think Baker, and realistically, I truly think Baker should be Comeback Player of the Year.
Baker, Flacco, Hamlin, those are the top three, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could say Flacco. It was pretty impressive, but he also didn't play the full season. All Hamlin's done is just penalties and miss punt. Like, Hamlin hasn't done. Hamlin, he is the comeback. It should be a totally different award.
We talked about this. We need two awards for this. Yeah,
you can't. He's not the Comeback Player of the Year. He didn't play. Okay, he came back from losing his life. That's his award. Baker had a much better season.
Yeah, Baker was playing for his career at one point. Like, he was scout team defensive end on the worst team in the league. If he doesn't play well this year, he is done. This is his last chance. And now, I mean, if you're the Bucs, you kind of gotta sign him, right?
You have to sign him. $45 million. That's what they're talking about this morning. Like, he's in that $45 million contract range. So
like good. $45 million a year. I don't know.
I think it's 4 years, $45 million.
Oh, well, it's got to be more than that, surely. That seems a little, I don't know. 4 years for $45 million. That's what a running back would make.
I know, but I don't think let me look. I got the number right here. He is in the market for, let's see. I saw this more on Twitter, but I'll keep looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, the point being, if you're Tampa Bay, you kind of got to bring him back after he wins a playoff game, gives you that type of season. If you want to be honest,
$45 million a year, yeah, 40 to 45 a year. Wow, okay.
I was gonna say that makes more sense. Yeah. He's not gonna get that. There's no way. I think he could get maybe 25 or 30, something like what Geno Smith got.
Yeah, that's 30. 30 is realistic for him. I mean, I like Baker. Baker's a dog.
Yeah, he's and honestly, like, if you want to talk about the other factors and the roster composition and all that, sure. But Baker probably had a better year this year than Tom Brady had in his last year.
He did in most stats. I think Baker threw for a little less yards and Baker had more picks and less yards, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, but they were in the same ballpark.
Yeah. So the point being, if you can translate that, there wasn't that much of a drop off. This is your team now. Like, this team believes in you.
He did well. All right, Saturday, we'll blow through these games pretty quickly. The second game, which is the one we're talking about, the Packers versus the 49ers. I thought the Packers deserved to win this game. They did everything they needed to do. They couldn't find a drive at the end of the game to win it, and obviously they gave up a drive to the 49ers. But I think the 49ers didn't play as well as they should have played, but they found a way to win, so you got to credit them.
Yeah, LaFleur flies under the radar when we talk about the great coaches in the NFL. He's got to be up there.
Yeah,
he consistently puts in winning positions. What are the Packers are now like 0-6 in their last 6 games against the Niners in the playoffs? They just can't beat them. But the Packers did a great job. Jordan Love was very good until that just awful Brett Favre-esque interception at the end of the game. Aaron Jones, 4 straight games, 100+ rushing yards, kind of out of nowhere. He was really good. San Francisco, I gotta say, I'm a little bit worried about the Niners here because Brock Purdy looked awful. I understand that he led a quote-unquote game-winning drive. There was one good pass in that drive. There's a lot of short stuff, a lot of checkdowns. Christian McCaffrey gets it over the line. You can't watch that game and say Brock Purdy is the MVP of the Niners, much less of the league. McCaffrey was doing everything. He was making some incredible runs there. And I also got to say, he's a hero. My biggest bet of the weekend was McCaffrey, most rushing and receiving yards in this game. He beat out Aaron Jones by like 12 yards, I think. But my biggest takeaway was that the Niners I don't think they're scary. I think they're good, but I think the Chiefs and the Ravens are the 2 scariest teams left. And especially because the Niners pass rush all of a sudden is just gone. It's nowhere to be found. Everybody was hyping up that move for Chase Young. As a Commanders fan, I was saying, Chase Young is not a difference maker. He's a difference maker in a negative way. And we've seen that. They really did not trouble Jordan Love pretty much all afternoon.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Jordan Love's McCaffrey's stat line looks better than Jordan Love's stat line, but it didn't go like that. I mean, McCaffrey or Purdy. Purdy's stat line looks better than Jordan Love's, but I think Jordan Love played better overall. Brock Purdy had a few passes that should have been picked off.
Purdy was really bad, like flat out very bad.
You can't tell that by the box score, but he was not good. Christian McCaffrey is this team, though. They need to rely on the run game, and he did that 17 for 98 with 2 touchdowns at 30 receiving yards. He was fantastic. That's what this team is. You have to play really good defense. You have to run the ball and control clock. Purdy's good enough to win games with this team. We've seen it, right? But he's not going to go out and win games for you. He's still in that game manager category. And you know what? He should be. He was Mr. Irrelevant a year ago. Like we're expecting this guy to be like playing like Patrick Mahomes right now. He was the last pick in the draft a year ago. Like what he has done is exceptional.
Yeah, his story is great, and he's absolutely an inspiration. I don't have a problem with Brock Purdy. I have a problem with all the so-called experts out there who want to elevate him. Like after the game, I saw a 49ers reporter for The Athletic, and I think Jason McIntyre, who does stuff with Colin Cowherd, they were saying that was a Joe Montana performance. There are no questions left that Brock Purdy has to answer. Like, did you watch this game? He was throwing the ball straight at the Packers defenders all afternoon. I didn't see velocity on any of his passes. There's a clip on social media going around where he wipes his hand off mid-play because it's raining outside. That's not something cool. That shows he has all the time in the world in the pocket, that he's not stressed at all, and yet he still can't deliver a simple pass in this game. So, yeah, the box score is good. The 49ers won. And, yes, he's doing a good thing by being even an average quarterback when he barely even made it to the league. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But all these people who want to elevate him to the MVP conversation, just watch the game. Don't look at the box score. Don't look at the team record. Watch the game. He did not play well.
No, I don't think he has to answer to anyone in a way. Like he's good enough to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. So like that's what you're getting out of him. He's not an MVP. His stats are MVP like because of the team he plays for more than anything else. But you can't give him the MVP when Christian McCaffrey's on his team, because I think in the end of the day, Christian McCaffrey is one. I mean, him and Lamar are the two guys who should be the top two for the MVP.
Yeah, for sure. And then just look at here's where I'm really concerned. And again, we're gonna have a full preview coming up here soon, but thinking about their game with the Lions, Purdy has faced adversity probably 5 times this season. There was that 3-game losing stretch in the middle of the season. They lost all of them. He was bad in all of them.
He was concussed though too. Like he was
concussed in, what was it, the Browns game?
He was legit when he was there was a difference. Like when he legitimately cleared concussion protocol at his play. Like I don't think he knew where he was at for a few of those games.
That's fair enough, but we could take that out. He faces adversity in the Ravens game. He's awful. 4 interceptions, no touchdowns. And he faces adversity in this game, and he's bad. I know people want to point to the Cowboys game as one where he really stood out because that was his best game of the year. But we just saw what the Cowboys did in a high leverage moment. So maybe that speaks more to them in big moments than it does Purdy being the guy.
Yeah, I think Brock Purdy is kind of like in that damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. He shouldn't be elevated to he shouldn't be asked to play like the number 1 pick in the draft. He wasn't. He was Mr. Irrelevant. He shouldn't be a starter right now. Chances are he shouldn't even be in the league based on where he was drafted. But like the fact that he's elite, the fact that he's in this position, even with the talented team, like San Francisco is getting everything possible out of him. So like it's like because he's on the best team in the world, not the best team in the world, but because he's on a very good football team in the National Football League and he's leading them, like he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny, but he really doesn't deserve it because he was the seventh round pick.
Yeah, I agree. He does not at all deserve to be criticized the way he is. It's a byproduct of everybody gassing him up to a level that he probably shouldn't be at. But I mean, that's something that I'm sure he doesn't mind taking, considering he's in contention for a Super Bowl. The first game of the weekend, the Ravens, the Texans, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about here. This was a Ravens smoke show. It was tied at halftime only because of one big special teams play. The Texans really had their chance coming out of halftime. They don't score there, and from there, the game is over. The Ravens win the second half 24-0. Coming out of that game, I felt more confident in the Ravens than I had at any point in this season. To see them take a player as hot as CJ Stroud and just turn him into nothingness Now Stroud I'm not blaming this game on Stroud at all, by the way. I actually thought Stroud I'm not going to say he was good, but I think he was impressive because his ability to extend plays, try to get the ball downfield, considering how overmatched he was, how much pressure he was facing. I thought it was an inspiring performance. But that being said, the Ravens totally dominated them. And if there's a year for Lamar and them to go win the Super Bowl, it's absolutely got to be this year.
I'll talk about the Texans first. What CJ Stroud did this year was unbelievable because the Texans are not a good football team overall. Statistically, they don't rank high anywhere but their passing game. And even the passing game, like they just threw the ball so much. So like in the rankings, like efficiency, they weren't the highest in the world because CJ Stroud was asked to do so much. But defensive line, secondary, offensive line, run game, they weren't very good. So the fact that they got to this position, very, very high praise to CJ Stroud. The Ravens, if they don't beat the Chiefs, they'll never beat the Chiefs. I think if the Chiefs don't lose this game, we'll never see the Chiefs lose because this is the worst Chiefs team in years, and they're still ready to go to the Super Bowl. I do have my fears about the Ravens in this game. I think the Chiefs have a very good chance to beat them.
I agree because I think the Chiefs have a very good chance to beat every team in the league. I understand that we don't have the same track record yet because Tom Brady was with the Patriots for 20 years. But this is the Tom Brady Patriots era happening again. Yep. It's just how long can the Chiefs prolong it? In 6 years, Mahomes has been to 6 AFC championship games. That's never happened before. His stats are better than any players have ever been. And last year, when he had no weapons, he still threw for 5,200 yards and won the MVP. And this year, with no weapons and the team ranked 15th in scoring, he just laid it on the Bills in his first road playoff game ever that everybody was so worried about. And they're now one win away from being back in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, you've got to be concerned if you're the Ravens, but at the same time, I don't think that should be unexpected. That's what everybody should have been expecting this whole time, yet we wanted to discount them.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are a very good team. Like they've rolled through everyone in their path, but if the Ravens can't win this game, just like the Bills can't win yesterday, they're probably never going to win. They're never going to beat Patrick Mahomes. If the Ravens don't win this game, they're never going to win. Outside of a few years like we saw with Brady. But for the most part, Brady was always there. He was always expected to win. And for the most part, he did win.
Here's one thing I will say, and again, we're going to break this game. We're going to break down the Chiefs-Ravens game on Wednesday in full, so I don't want to give away too much. But one thing that I am worried about, and I haven't dove into the numbers yet, and I'm going to do that before the Wednesday show, but one thing I think you do have to be cognizant of is the Chiefs could not stop Josh Allen running the football. Lamar and Josh Allen are equivalent, let's say, runners. They go about in different ways. Josh is more contact, Lamar is more elusiveness, but Lamar's throwing the ball the best that he ever has in his career. Josh wasn't amazing throwing the ball last week. I think Lamar can give you the same Josh Allen performance, and then the Ravens defense is not only better, but it's also healthier. So I think that's where the concern lies.
Yeah, it should be a great game, but it's not. I think a lot of people expected the Ravens to cruise to the Super Bowl, and I think if the Bills did win that game yesterday, they would have, but now it's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah, completely different. But guys, that's going to do it for our recap here. We gave you a nice long show, gave you our full analysis on this. On Wednesday, we're breaking down Chiefs, Ravens with spreads, totals, player props, all that good stuff. And then we're going to do the same, but on Friday with the Lions 49ers matchup in the NFC Championship game. But that's going to do it for this episode. Take us on out of here, Tanner.
That was Ride the Line, the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. We'll see you next time for another episode.